Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know we love to explore those big questions. And today, we're diving into, well, wealth creation.
Yeah, and to help us with that, we're going back in time
Way back.
to ancient Babylon.
Using The Richest Man in Babylon as our guide. This book, it's packed with wisdom that's surprisingly relevant even today.
It really is.
We're going to pull out those golden nuggets, those timeless principles to, well, help you on your own path to financial success. What do you think?
The cool thing about this book is that it doesn't use, complex financial jargon.
Yeah.
Instead, it uses stories, these parables set in ancient Babylon, to illustrate these principles in a way that anyone can understand.
Exactly, like the story of Bansir and Kabi. These hardworking guys just scraping by.
Right.
They see all this wealth in Babylon, but they can't figure out how to, get a piece of it.
Yeah, relatable.
So relatable, even thousands of years later.
Yeah.
It's a feeling a lot of people know.
Absolutely. So they go to their friend Arkad?
The richest man in Babylon.
Exactly, for advice.
To figure it all out.
And what's interesting here is that Arkad, well, he wasn't born rich.
Oh, eh?
He didn't start with, a silver shekel in his hand.
He had to learn it all himself.
Yeah, he started from nothing, just like them.
Okay.
So when he talks about wealth creation, it's not theoretical. It comes from experience.
I like that. So let's get into what Arkad shares with them, his 7 cures for a lean purse. And these are practical steps, not just, vague ideas, for building wealth.
Absolutely.
And the first one might be surprising. Start thy purse to fattening. Pay yourself first.
Before anything else.
Even before you pay your bills.
Right. Put aside at least a tenth of your earnings. And this isn't about, depriving yourself. It's about recognizing that you are worth investing in, prioritizing your future.
That always seemed counterintuitive to me, like saving when you're barely making ends meet.
It does, yeah.
But Arkad makes this observation that the more you save, the more money seems to flow to you.
Yeah.
It's like you're creating this positive feedback loop.
Exactly. It changes your whole mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Oh, I like that.
And that leads perfectly into the second cure. Control thy expenditures.
Budgeting. Not the most exciting topic, but
crucial.
It's so important. And it doesn't have to be, super restrictive.
No, not at all. Think of it as making deliberate choices about how you spend.
Right.
What truly matters to you. Where can you cut back without feeling like you're missing out? It's about taking control, instead of letting your money control you.
I like that. Okay, so cure number 3 is where things get really interesting. Make thy gold multiply. We're talking investments.
Yeah.
Even in ancient Babylon, people understood, the power of putting their money to work.
For sure. And Arkad actually shares a story about his first successful investment.
Okay.
A loan he made to this shield maker, Agar. Agar needed money to buy bronze. And Arkad, he saw this as a good opportunity. Agar, he was a reliable guy. And with everyone needing shields, Arkad knew his investment would probably pay off.
It makes sense.
And it did.
With interest.
With interest.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing for Arkad, right?
Right.
He also talks about his first investment, which turned out to be a total scam.
Yeah.
He lost everything. Yeah. And that brings us to cure number 4. Guard thy treasures from loss.
You've got to protect what you've earned.
It's a timeless lesson. Do your research. Understand what you're investing in. And be wary of those, get-rich-quick schemes.
Totally.
In Arkad's case, he trusted this, smooth-talking merchant.
Oh, no.
Who promised him a share in this shipment of rare jewels.
Sounds a little too good to be true.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Turns out, the jewels. Fake.
Oh, man.
It just reminds us that everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone.
Even the richest man in Babylon. But the key is to learn from them, right?
Absolutely.
And he emphasizes seeking advice from people who really know their stuff.
Yeah.
In the areas you're considering investing in.
People who have experience, for sure.
Now, speaking of investments, the 5th cure might resonate with you. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Owning your own home.
This is fascinating because it shows that this concept of owning a home, it was already a cornerstone of wealth building in ancient Babylon. The king was expanding the city.
Oh.
Making land available at affordable prices. People who bought land and built homes, they didn't just have a place to live. They had an asset that could increase in value over time.
It's very similar to real estate markets that we see today.
It is. It shows how timeless some of these financial principles really are.
So interesting. Cure number 6 might seem a bit ahead of its time. Ensure a future income. Planning for retirement and providing for your family. Long term.
Long term, yeah, something the Babylonians were already thinking about. They didn't have, 401ks or IRAs back then, but they had ways to invest in land that would give them a steady income, lending money for interest, and even pooling resources within their families to make sure everyone was taken care of.
Like a proto version of life insurance.
Yeah, exactly. They knew how important it was to have a safety net, to not just rely on their current earnings to support themselves and their families in the future.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And finally, cure number 7. Increase thy ability to earn.
This is all about investing in yourself,
Yeah.
learning new things, acquiring skills, and building a solid reputation. These are things that never go out of style, right?
Never.
And they can boost your earning potential.
For sure. And there's this great story in the book about this young guy who complains to Arcad about his low wages.
Okay.
And Arcad's response, what knowledge or skills do you have that would justify a higher wage?
He's got a point.
He does.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that you have to bring something valuable to the table.
So it's about being proactive, taking
Yeah.
ownership of your career,
Yeah.
and always trying to improve your value. That applies to any job, any time period.
Any era.
Ah.
Whether you're, I don't know, a chariot maker in ancient Babylon or a software developer today, your ability to earn, it's tied to your skills and knowledge. That's a fact. So we've got these 7 cures, these practical steps for building wealth. But there's another layer to Arcad's wisdom, the 5 laws of gold. And these laws, they're like guiding principles. They provide the foundation for the 7 cures. We'll get into those soon.
We will.
But first, what's resonating with you so far from these 7 cures? What stands out as, particularly relevant to your own life and goals? Take a moment to think about that.
Yeah, let it sink in. And we'll be right back.
It really is amazing how relevant these principles still are,
I know, right?
even though they come from ancient times.
So easy to get lost in, like, the complexity of modern finance.
Totally.
These cures remind us that the fundamentals of wealth creation, they haven't really changed that much.
Nope, they're timeless.
All right, let's move on to those 5 laws of gold,
Let's do it.
which give us, like, a framework for understanding the 7 cures.
Exactly.
And to illustrate them, we're going to dive into the story of Arcad's son, Nomasir.
Oh, yeah, Noah. Now, Arcad, being a wise man, he doesn't just give his wealth to his son.
He's got to earn it.
Right. Instead, he wants to make sure that Nomasir really understands how to manage it responsibly.
Makes sense.
So he gives him a bag of gold and a clay tablet with these 5 laws inscribed on it.
That's cool.
Yeah, like a real-life test.
Like a financial apprenticeship.
Exactly. Nomasir has 10 years to prove himself.
Oh,
If he can manage and grow the gold, he inherits the estate.
nice.
But if not, the priests get it all.
Oh, man. Talk about pressure.
High-stakes personal finance.
Definitely.
So how does Nomasir do?
Well, not great at first.
Oh, no.
He starts off, full of enthusiasm, but he makes a bunch of bad decisions, falls for those get-rich-quick schemes,
Oh,
trusts the wrong people.
the classic mistakes.
Yeah, and ends up losing everything.
Wow.
It's a cautionary tale. It really highlights how important those 5 laws are.
Let's go through each law then.
Okay.
See how Nomasir's experiences, both his mistakes and his eventual success, bring them to life.
Sounds good.
The first law says, gold cometh gladly, and increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family.
Pay yourself first.
Right, like that first cure.
Exactly.
But Nomasir fails this one, like big time.
Yeah, at the beginning,
He blows through his gold.
he does. But, it teaches him a valuable lesson.
Oh, okay.
He hits rock bottom, and then he remembers his father's advice
Okay.
and starts saving again, even though he's just a laborer now.
Wow.
And slowly, his savings start growing again. But this time, he really understands the value.
It's a good reminder that it's never too late to start, even with small, consistent saving.
Exactly. They really add up over time.
The second law is all about putting those savings to work. It says, gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field.
You've got to invest it wisely.
Right. This is where Nomasir messes up again.
Yeah.
He loses money in a bad business deal
Oh, no.
because he didn't understand it well enough.
He didn't do his research.
And he didn't ask for advice from people with experience.
Ah, classic mistake.
Yeah, he gets caught up in the hype of a potential quick return and doesn't do his due diligence.
So many people do that, even today.
Right. And that brings us to law number 3. Gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling.
Talk to the experts.
Right. It's all about getting good advice before making investment decisions.
Absolutely.
And this is where Nomasir's story turns around.
Oh, good.
He realizes he needs help and starts seeking guidance from successful merchants and investors.
All right.
Learns from them, makes smarter decisions, and his wealth slowly starts to grow again.
Nice.
He goes from, chasing quick riches to understanding slow and steady growth.
Sustainable growth.
Yes, exactly. And that leads us to law number 4, which emphasizes due diligence even more. Gold slippeth away from the man who invests in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep.
Don't invest in what you don't understand.
Right. Nomasir learned that the hard way.
He did.
It's about careful research, understanding the risks, and maybe getting advice from experts in that specific area.
Exactly.
Don't jump into something just because it sounds good.
Right. Or someone's giving you a hard sell.
Yeah.
Take the time to learn, understand, and assess the risks before investing.
And finally, law number 5. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who follow with the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
Greed, impatience, unrealistic expectations, they'll get you every time.
Yeah. Nomasir fell prey to all of them.
Yeah, it led to his early setbacks.
It's a reminder that building wealth takes time, discipline, and a willingness to learn.
And to grow.
So after 10 years of ups and downs, making mistakes, and learning from them, Nomasir goes back to his dad. He not only has all the gold back,
Wow.
but he's gained experience and wisdom.
That's what it's all about.
He knows how to manage money and also how to manage himself.
Arkad must have been proud.
That's what Arkad wanted all along. He knew that true wealth wasn't just about having a lot of gold. It was about having the character, the wisdom, and the discipline to handle it.
It's about more than just the money.
Exactly. So we have the 7 cures, the practical steps, and the 5 laws, which are like the guiding principles.
That foundation.
And they make a pretty solid framework for thinking about how to build wealth, don't they?
They do. They offer a timeless approach to building financial security and achieving your goals.
The Richest Man in Babylon has a lot of great stories and parables.
It does.
Is there one that really stood out to you that you think would be insightful for our listeners?
There's the story of Dabasir, the camel trader.
Oh yeah, Dabasir.
It's a really powerful story about redemption.
Okay. And the power of taking control of your financial life.
So Dabasir, he starts off as this hardworking guy, likable too, but he's terrible with money.
You can't manage it.
Right. Borrows from everyone, never pays it back.
Yeah.
And it catches up to him.
Of course.
A lot of people have been there.
It's easy to get stuck in that cycle of debt.
So Davasir's story, it shows us what can happen when things spiral out of control.
He loses his reputation, his relationships, feels trapped.
He ends up fleeing Babylon.
To get away from his creditors.
And falls in with a bad crowd.
Yeah, not a good situation.
He ends up a slave in Syria.
Talk about hitting rock bottom.
But that's where things change for him.
Right. He's lost everything, forced to face the reality of slavery.
Makes him look at himself, honestly.
Take responsibility for his actions.
He realizes he's been looking at the world through what he calls a colored stone.
Making excuses.
Blaming everyone else.
Not owning up to his mistakes.
He realizes that his debts, they're more than just money owed.
They represent a lack of self-respect, responsibility too.
Yeah, and that realization is what motivates him to change.
So he escapes.
Daring escape plan.
Goes back to Babylon.
Faces his creditors.
And starts to rebuild his life.
It's inspiring.
He doesn't shy away from the consequences.
He owns up to them, makes things right.
He goes back to work.
Which had always been there for him.
Even when he didn't value it.
Right.
And this connects back to the 7th cure. Increase thy ability to earn.
Exactly.
Work can be a source of dignity.
Purpose.
And a path to financial freedom.
Dabasir becomes a successful camel trader.
Pays off all his debts.
And gets his reputation back.
It's never too late to turn things around.
No matter how bad your situation seems.
There's always hope.
There's a way back to stability and prosperity.
But it takes honesty, courage, and hard work.
It does.
So we've explored these timeless principles from The Richest Man in Babylon.
Ancient wisdom.
How can you apply these to your own life?
Think about the 7 cures.
And the 5 laws?
They can be your guide.
And remember Devasir's story.
You can always change your financial destiny.
One of the biggest takeaways from the book is about seeking guidance from people with experience.
Find your Arkad in the modern world.
Right. Who could that be for you?
A financial advisor, a mentor, a successful entrepreneur.
Even a friend or family member who's good with money.
Having that support system can make a huge difference.
People you can turn to for advice and encouragement.
Absolutely.
And remember, even small steps, taken consistently,
They can lead to big results.
start with one of the 7 cures.
Track your expenses or commit to saving a certain amount each month.
Building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint.
Good habits, informed choices, stay committed to your goals.
The Richest Man in Babylon shows us these principles are still true today.
Thousands of years later.
So there you have it, ancient wisdom for modern wealth creation.
We hope this deep dive has given you some inspiration.
To start building your own financial empire.
Happy investing.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.